Welcome to the Real Estate Investor Podcast. I'm your host, Gary Lipsky of Break of Day Capital. I talk to leading experts to discuss a wide range of subjects to educate investors on best-in-class practices to build legacy wealth and positively impact communities. Let's jump in. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Investor Podcast. I'm your host, Gary Lipsky with Break of Day Capital. Be sure to join our Facebook group, Asset Management Mastery, where we have a great community of thousands of like-minded individuals sharing resources and best practices. Hey everyone, we have launched the BODC Multifamily Impact Fund. Invest with a trusted operator with a track record of success. Our fund offers diversification, risk mitigation, tax benefits, and stringent acquisition criteria. If you'd like to learn more, head over to our website at breakofdaycapital.com.
Choosing the right insurance coverage for multifamily properties isn't that complicated if you know who to talk to. At the Garzella Group, we're uniquely qualified to help you navigate the range of policy choices you have, and we're committed to saving you 30% in the process. We do intensive market research and have nationwide relationships, so we can find coverage other insurance brokers simply can't. We should talk. Go to quotenow.biz and we'll start the conversation.
Today on the podcast, we're going in a little different direction. We have Matt King. Matt is an entrepreneur and operations executive with over a decade of experience building and scaling firms across multiple industries, including finance, real estate, and retail. He currently serves as the CEO of GoBundance, a high-level entrepreneurial group. Thanks for joining us, Matt. Can you start by telling the listeners a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, look, Gary, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here. I would just tell, the listeners, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a rancher, I have a ranch. Business is a part of what I do, but business isn't who I am. And I think it's very important for all of us to not let our identities get too wrapped up into any one thing, right? And so I love focusing on mental health. I love focusing on physical health, love playing with my kids, love hanging out with my family. And really, I'm just on a mission to make memories in my life. I think a lot of people, especially probably listening to this, chase assets over memories. And I believe you can chase assets with memories and that those will then last a lifetime. And, I'm really, the last thing I'd say is I'm a student of life. I don't pretend to have all the answers. I don't want to have all the answers. But I do know that I'm one level away from every single person I need in my life to help me navigate whatever pops up. And so I just really lean into that and try to stay open-minded and very student-based.
Yeah, I love that. Certainly, it's a big part of my life, and certainly the guys I hang out with. All too often, I see people living small, and certainly I've lived small at moments of my life, kind of putting limitations on myself. It's rare for people not to do that. How do you catch yourself from living small and push yourself to go further?
Yeah, look, it happens all the time, right? We all have this like little inner voice that isn't really trying to hurt us. It's not trying to harm us. It's trying to protect us. It's trying to keep us safe. It doesn't want to fail because most people view failure as a bad thing. And so what I do when I find that little voice pop up, I try to counter it with like massive action. So, a great example is we're getting zebras here at our ranch. And there was a voice inside of me that's like, why are you spending $5,500 on a zebra? And like, why would you do that? That's a bad idea. Like all those things came into my mind, right? And so immediately I just reached out to the lady. I said, I'll take 2 of them. And it's going to be cool. We can breed them. We can do all this fun stuff, right? But like really the reason I got 2 of them is because the voice inside of me was saying, you can't have a life that has a zebra. And I was like, well, if I can have 1, why can't I have 2? And so I try to always take actions to mute that little voice and to try to get over it. I was taught at a very young age by, probably like the most impactful person in my life outside of my family, David Osborne, this concept and this notion of why not me? So, someone's going to stand on a stage and lead these people. Why not me? Someone's going to go on that private Disney VIP tour. Why not me? Someone's going to buy 2 zebras. Why not me? And so when I find that little voice pop up, Gary, I always try to respond to it with, someone's going to do this. Why not me? And then I try to take massive action to just try to take that little inner voice and say, like, we know you're never going to go away, but you're going to be so quiet, we can't hear you.
I love that you said, why not me? Because that is something that I've said to myself many times. And it took me a while to get there.
Yeah.
To say to myself, why not me? I've never said, why not have 2 zebras versus 1, though?
But now you're thinking it. Why not have 3?
Exactly. obviously you can't get there by yourself. You need to
Yeah.
surround yourself. Besides David Asborn, what kind of communities or things that you're a part of to help get you to where your mindset is now and to help you get to your success?
Yeah, look, I mean, the first person I would give a lot of credit to are both my parents. I mean, they raised me at a young age to sort of be very resourceful. I tell this story all the time, but I remember being young and wanting to order a pizza one night, and my mom just threw the phone book on the table. Most people probably don't even know what a phone book is, but they threw the phone book on the table, and she said, "Here's $20, figure it out." And so I had to, at a young age, call the pizza shop and do I want hand crust or deep dish or what do I want, and what's the delivery address and what's the time and how much money do I have enough, all that stuff. So that really just taught me the power of like, I have the ability to find the way or make the way to choose whatever I want in my life. My wife has been a huge, huge, huge part of my life. Biggest cheerleader, biggest supporter, pushes me to be the best version of myself, not afraid to kick me in the teeth, especially when I'm down. David's been incredible, but honestly, it's the GoBundance community. So I was sort of raised and bred by, for lack of better terms, by this GoBundance community. I founded at 23 years old and started off in the back of the room volunteering, serving on what we call our Go crew, which is the volunteers that help make the event run smoothly. And then just as a byproduct of that, have continued to serve, apply the lessons into my life, and now am honored and fortunate to be called the CEO of this organization that candidly helped shape my life and my family's sort of economic destiny, if you'll be so dramatic. And so that community around me is 900 and some men that are high achieving, very successful, focused on their health, focused on their contribution, focused on business, focused on family, focused on adventure, bucket list trips. And now I have that group around me that not only holds me accountable, but inspires me.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It does that for me. You talked about getting involved in this group, doing stuff, working in the back of the room.
Yeah.
So many people want that easy button.
Yeah.
How do you avoid doing that, putting in the work to get there? Because particularly, I find that younger generation, it's like I want to, I want to get there, and it's certainly I've been that way myself.
Yeah, look, I don't think you can avoid the hard work. And a lot of people want to, and they want to skirt around it. And candidly, I'm glad that they want to get around it because it just makes more opportunity for me because I'm not afraid to do the work. I think one of the other gifts I've been given is I dropped out of college. So like I'm not perceived as the smartest person in the room. And so a lot of people take me for granted. A lot of people look right past me. And that just gives me a lot of opportunity to be the underdog. And I love being the underdog. I love being counted down. I love being counted out because I know my work ethic and I will outwork any single person that I meet. Like I will work harder than anybody else you'll meet. And so I know because I was raised this way that hard work beats talent when talent's not willing to work. And so I just show up and I work and I work and I work. And eventually that hard work leads to talent. And then I have hard work and talent. And now I have this two-headed monster, if you will, that can attack any opportunity that presents itself. I also learned at a young age, caddying at a country club, working in the locker room at a country club, that service is the Trojan horse to knowledge. So if you want to learn something in your life, serve somebody that's doing it. Whether it's carrying their golf bag around on a golf course for 4 hours or shining their shoes in a locker room, if you help people and then you ask them a question, they will help you in return. It's just human nature. And so I've always understood that. And I've always used my work ethic as a way to serve.
Absolutely. Great advice for those out there wanting to get ahead. I've certainly done that and try to help others that are looking to serve versus just take.
Yeah.
I'm definitely more willing to help someone that has that kind of attitude.
Yeah.
Speaking of hard work, let's go to 29029. So it's an event that Jesse Itzler puts on with some others. You climb the mountain. So let's say Stratton. So I guess it's 17 times.
Yeah.
A vertical gain of 1,750 feet each time you climb. So very hardcore. Think of people out there. Think of it like a marathon climbing. That's uphill the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kudos to you for doing that. Like, why'd you do it, and what did it do for you?
Yeah. So, it was cool to do. It was even cooler to watch my wife complete it too. She's a badass in her own right. Why I do it is every year I try to set a goal that pushes me outside of my comfort zone to just remind me how truly great I can be if I put my mind to it. And so to your point, you have to hike the elevation of Mount Everest and you have 36 hours to do it. Now, we were also gifted with the time we did it that it rained the entire time. And so not only were we climbing a mountain, but we were climbing a mountain soaking wet. The ground was wet as can be. It was cold. It was wet. It was just awful. But it was a beating. It was a good beating. It was like just when you thought you couldn't go further, you find the power to put one more step in, one more step in, one more step in. And I do those things so that then when life happens and I'm in a business deal or I'm in a business meeting or my kids are challenging me and I'm like, I don't want to go any further, I just remind myself, like, on the other side of that, in this event specifically, is this red hat to signify completion. And so on the other side of whatever I'm facing, what is going to signify completion and how great is it going to feel to overcome that? And what's cool is oftentimes in life, we look at those moments as our ceilings, right? Like, I don't think I can do that. I don't think I can do that. But what's awesome is once you break through that ceiling, now that becomes your new floor. So now 29,029 is irrelevant. Like, I can do it. So now that's the floor of what's possible. So that means what else is possible? Like, I would love to do actual Everest. I don't think my wife will ever let me. Maybe if I get enough insurance, she would. But I don't think she'll ever let me do it. And so, like, trying to put myself in situations similar from a mental and physical test, which I know you can't compare hiking Stratton to Everest. Like, I'm not saying that you can compare those two things, but it is physically grueling. It's a beating. And it was really a cool experience. It's the same reason why I wrote a bull in 2021. It's the same reason why this year, one of my goals is to go skydiving. Same reason why I've run marathons is every single year I have one goal in my life that scares me, that challenges me, and then takes that ceiling that I had on my life and makes it the floor.
I love it. It's so true. Like, once you do something, you're like, oh, then everything else. And it could be applied to everything in your life, not just that physical challenge, but any other challenge. Like, hey, I've been through that. This is easy. This is nothing,
Right. It's like my wife. She's like, oh, I've had 2 babies natural. Like, I can do anything. Like, if I can have 2 babies natural, like, that's easy. Now she's going to have a 3rd one at home. And she's like, this is easy. Like, it's still going to be hard. It's still going to be grueling. But, like, once you understand what you're really, truly capable of, life becomes limitless. And that's just such a fun place to live.
There's one thing you said that was really important. How you framed it. You framed it. It was a beating, but it was a good beating. So It wasn't like torture, but you're like, all right, let me, like, I'm going to fight through this. This is teaching me a lesson, and talk about that.
Yeah, look, man, I believe that everything that happens to us is a gift. And even if it feels like torture in the moment, we look backward on it and we're like, oh, I'm so glad that happened, or here's all the benefits from what happened from that opportunity. And so, it was a good beating because it was like a challenge to make sure I was, like, mentally strong and I could handle it, and my physical body was ready to handle it. And, like, now I look back and go, like, I'm so glad I went through that because it helped me make some health transformations and just get myself to a place I was even more excited about. And again, another mentor of mine, Rock Thomas, who's a part of GoBundance, he taught me at a young age. He said, life happens for you, not to you. And so everything that happens in my life is a gift. It's a blessing. I don't always recognize it in that moment, right? And Steve Jobs said it best. He said, you can never connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. And so I just recognize that. I try to live with an abundant mindset. I try to remain in gratitude. And I try to say, like, man, I'm so grateful I'm capable of even walking up this mountain once. Now, what a gift I have to be able to walk with 2 eyes and 2 ears and 2 great legs and 2 great arms and get up this mountain. Like, there's people that physically could never even do it because they don't have legs or they don't have vision or whatever their story might be, right? And many of them still do it anyways. And so I just kind of try to look at everything as a gift. And I'm just fortunate to be here for a moment in time and try to take everything as a lesson and learn from it and grow from it and just trying to make myself the best version of myself I can be.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I think, we can all heed that advice when we're complaining about sitting on the phone for an extra 5 minutes or sitting in traffic, whatever, these stupid things that we get riled up about, that is just a blip in time, and that has nothing to do with
No, and don't get me wrong, Gary, I still get riled up in traffic. I still get frustrated on the phone. Like, I'm not perfect. I'm not saying I'm perfect. But what I do is I recognize, why am I mad at traffic? I could have, how do I control this? How could I have taken ownership over the situation? Could I have left 5 minutes earlier? Could I have taken an alternative route? Could I have asked to get off the call at a certain time to get on my next call? And so again, I'm not a victim. I am the keeper and the controller of everything that's going on in my life. And so I know that I have the ability, if I don't like how something's working, whether it be traffic or a phone call, I have the ability to make changes. It just means I'm going to have good awareness for myself.
Absolutely. I heard you say this quote, eagles fly with eagles. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you study eagles, they don't soar with pigeons. And I think people are the same. Like, if you want to find talented people, go find someone who's talented and look at their circle. Like, talented people, generally speaking, aren't going to hang out with untalented people. The same is true of healthy people. You're not going to find somebody who's doing 250 CrossFit workouts a year at McDonald's with three extremely overweight people. Like, that's just generally what happens. And so what it means to me is, when you're trying to be a leader of leaders like I am, and you're trying to continue to lead at the highest and best level, you have to surround yourself with other leaders, other eagles. And the interesting thing is like, there's only one bird, generally speaking, that will attack an eagle, and that's a crow. And the way a crow will attack an eagle is it will latch onto its back and start to peck at it. The way the eagle defends itself, it flies to an altitude where the crow can no longer breathe. The crow passes out and falls off. And so, like, that is just such a great analogy for what happens in our lives. It's such a great metaphor for what happens in our life. Like, all of a sudden, when we find ourselves trying to achieve a level of success, the people around you may try to pull you down, not because they don't like you, but because they're scared to lose you. And you have to make a decision. Do I want to keep pushing forward, or do I want to allow myself, an eagle, to fly with pigeons? And if you want to do that, that's okay too. There's more to life than just achievement. But as long as you're doing it consciously, you can't do it subconsciously. And so for me, it's about surrounding myself with people that are going to constantly push me and evolve me into being the best version of myself, because I know that I have greatness inside of me, so long as I have the right people around me, and that's my choice.
So how do you create this vision to be a success in life? And like we said, it's not just career or wealth, it's this kind of holistic 360 view. How do you create that vision?
Yeah, I mean, the first place you start with your core values. For some people, it's money. For some people, it's time. For some people, it's venture. For some people, it's family. For some people, it's health. Whatever your core values are, and you should have 3 to 5 of them. And then you kind of go and find an inspiring place with a journal, and you just say, wow, the year is 2029. My life is amazing. And then just start letting yourself write. I oftentimes use a process that I learned in high school. I know I said I was a college dropout, but I did pass high school. I learned a process that I learned in high school where we did a mind mapping exercise whenever we were going to write a 5-paragraph essay. So what was the point we were trying to make goes in the middle bubble, and then each paragraph is one of those offshoot bubbles around it. I do the same for my 5-year vision. Middle, it says 2029, and then there's a health bubble, there's a family bubble, there's a business bubble, there's a contribution bubble, there's an adventure bubble, and then I'll make some quick notes underneath it, like ride a bull, see the Grand Canyon, take the kids out of the country, whatever it is, right? And then what I like to do is I like to take all of that and write it into a narrative that's inspiring, something that I would want to read. And I learned this entire process from David. And you make it so compelling and so powerful that, like, your body tingles when you read it. And so then all of a sudden what you're doing is you're programming that subconscious mind. This is where we're going, right? It's no different than once you learn how to drive to work, you don't think through, I need to go left here, I need to go right there. Like, how many times have you driven a car where you're like, I don't even remember getting home, right? Like, the subconscious mind just takes over and you're in your driveway. And so I'm trying to do that same thing with the vision for my life. So I'll read it 25 times a year at a minimum, which is twice a week. I'll ingrain it in my mind. I've gone so far as having like a little board above my dresser that looks like a Disney mind map with all these pictures of my vision and where I'm going. And I'm just constantly trying to program my subconscious mind. This is where we're going. This is where we're going. This is where we're going.
Yeah, and not necessarily going to achieve everything, but man, you're living a life of intention, and your likelihood of success is going to be huge. And so if anyone's not doing that, I highly recommend they start doing it today.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is you're right. I'm likely not to achieve everything, but I'm likely to always achieve more than I thought was possible. So every single time I've looked at my vision, and I can go back and look at my 2018 vision, my 2017 vision, I always thought too small. So like I would say, here's how much money we have, or here's what my health looks like, or here's what this looks like around every aspect of my life except my golf handicap. That is the only thing that I have continually missed.
So we got to get you a golf coach then, if you don't have one.
I got one. We just got to get me a new brain on the golf course, because the mental midget in me just doesn't do well.
So my last question for you, do you have any like books or podcasts, anything that you recommend to someone to achieve the level of success that they can achieve?
Yeah, the first place I would start is with Ryan Holiday's book, Ego is the Enemy. I think it's an incredible book, and the death of the ego is a real thing. The second thing I'd say is read As a Man Thinketh. It's an incredible book, just talks about the power of your mind, the power of your subconscious mind, which are some topics we've talked about a little bit here. And then the last piece of advice I would say is never take criticism from someone you wouldn't take advice from. And so that's a more general statement, but a lot of us let the stories and programming of others determine our actions in our life. And I would just encourage everybody to look at what's holding them back and make sure it's not a person you wouldn't take advice from. So don't let somebody that's out of shape tell you you're out of shape. Don't listen to it. Let it go, right? Only take criticism from someone you'd be willing to take advice from.
Awesome, Matt. Thanks for coming on. It was a real pleasure. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Where can listeners find out more about you and what you do?
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Gary. I'm excited to see you at an upcoming GoBundance event. You can find me at GoBundance.com. I have my website is themattking.com. On social media, it's mattking.atx. We just launched a newsletter trying to encourage people to fail more, take more risks, live a more abundant life. And if I could ever be of service to anybody listening, I'm happy to. Just feel free to reach out and we'll find a time to connect or a call or a podcast, whatever that looks like. And thank you again for having me, Gary. It was an honor.
Awesome, man. This is Gary Lipsky signing off. I'll be back next week with another informative episode on the Real Estate Investor Podcast. To all of our listeners, thanks for joining us. And if you like this episode, please head over to iTunes or Stitcher and like, subscribe, and leave a review, as it will help us reach more people. And if you'd like to learn more about what we do at Break of Day Capital, head over to our website at breakofdaycapital.com and sign up for our newsletter and fill out our investor application. We'll talk to you next week.